Alistair Murray, and I'm the Vice President of Australian Sailing. Australian Sailing is really excited to bring our Olympians into your homes and connect them with the sailing community via this Olympic webinar series. Tonight we'll be chatting to the men's 470 team, who, as you all know, brought home gold from Tokyo, and they have a long list of achievements on the international stage. They don't really need a lot of introduction, but Victor Kovalenko has 11 Olympic medals under his belt, which has well earned him his status as the medal maker. Matt Belcher was recognised by the Australian Olympic team for his success as the flag bearer at the closing ceremony. And on the Olympic stage, Matt and Will have a silver from Rio and a gold from Tokyo, amongst various other world championships. Just a few stats that I've looked up that I'll share with you. Matt is the 7th most successful Olympic sailor of all time, behind some pretty sensational names. Victor is number 3 on the world ranking of Olympic gold medals from sailing over the past six Olympics. And when I say that, Great Britain is number 1 with 15 medals. Australia is number 2 with 10 gold medals, and Victor is number 3 with 7 gold medals. So he's the 3rd ranked country. Tonight, Matt, Will and Victor will share their experience campaigning for the Tokyo Games. There will then be an opportunity for Q&A. And at last week's webinar with Blackers, we had a lot of questions. Please leave your questions in the chat function for the meeting, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. And I've asked each of the participants tonight, the 3 guys, to give very brief answers so we can deal with as many questions as we possibly can. Before we pass over to Matt, Will and Victor, a quick reminder that there are a few more webinars to come. The next one will be on Tuesday next week with Matt Wern, and that should be really great. And the details have been shared in the comments for that. This webinar will finish a couple of minutes before 8 o'clock, and I'm saying that because I have a Ronstand board meeting to chair at 8 o'clock, and I don't want to be late. So that's when we're finishing, because that's when I'm leaving. We're going to go through a presentation of photographs from the guys. They will speak to these photographs. Many of the photos have been taken by Victor himself, and they're the favourites they've come up with. So we're going to do a bit of a slide presentation presented by them, and then I'll come back after that and handle the questions from the audience, which we're really looking forward to. So here we go with a slide presentation. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, this obviously sums up the experience that we had in Tokyo to come away with the gold medal after the silver in Rio. Obviously some of the best memories, and we've been a team for a really long time. It was almost 10 years together, and to celebrate, to have all of us, in that moment, it was taken literally 20-30 minutes after finishing that race. It was really, really special for us all. I think I'll let Will jump in sometimes as well. I think what really highlighted the motivation for our Tokyo program was actually Will's face. I really loved this photo where we're just presented with the silver medal. It just sort of summed up our personality, and the fact that we had that reaction after finishing second was a massive driver for us to just do that little bit extra that we could to hopefully take that chance to be on top of the podium. And it's a 5-year journey, so the fact that we were able to bring those emotions together and structure the program and to learn from the lessons that we did from the previous campaign, it was almost a fairy tale to be able to achieve that with everything that those 18 months, those challenges. So it was really special for us. In these images it was actually our first event in the bottom left corner, our first event together, Will and I, after we'd done, I think, 3 or 4 months of training, beginning of 2013. And for Will and I to win the first event, we went on to actually we went on to win all those events in 2013, which was kind of a unique situation for us. We were a new partnership. We'd done a lot of training. We were highly motivated, but to really balance that year, to have such a lot of success in that first year, and to then trying to continue that, was really challenging for us. And I think, Victor obviously helped us a lot to balance the psychology, to keep pushing ourselves and to keep focused on what that, the end goal with Rio. The 2019, the top right and bottom right images are from the World Championships in 2019 in the Olympic venue, which gave us a lot of confidence that we could perform in Olympic waters. And the top left image was actually taken at Coffs Harbour. We had to be very creative in our training, because Will lives in New South Wales. I live in Queensland, and with the border bubbles, we had to establish 4 or 5 different training centres on the East Coast, depending on what restrictions that we had. And that was, a really enjoyable moment. I'm not trying to get too close to a whale.
So instead of boats around us, we had a lot of whales.
Yeah, I think this image on the right was actually taken after it was the morning after of finishing the Olympics, and we were trying to close the container door. We had so much equipment. It was high 30s, super hot, and all we wanted to do was just to get that equipment inside and have a break. But just as we were closing the door, we'd packed everything. The container door had been damaged when they put it down, and we were getting a little bit frustrated. So we were really giving it everything we could to close the door. Do you want to jump in here, Will?
Reliving it. I was enjoying reliving it while you were telling the stories, Matty. But yeah, this is a little bit of our container setup that we had in Tokyo. We're really fortunate to have quite a close-knit family group in Japan, and considering the circumstances where we were fairly isolated in our accommodation, and then also within the village, these 2 containers kind of were our home away from home, and we had the food in the fridge there, 2 aircon units in each of the containers to keep us cool. And this is kind of where the magic happened. We had Thorpe doing a lot of the boat building behind the scenes. We had the support team of Caroline and Sam Ellison and Richard Slater working away in the back of one of the containers, just providing all the logistical support. We had the physios operating inside those containers as well, plus all of the athletes and coaches. So you have to be pretty tight knit to kind of live in that small space all together and to keep it clean and efficient. But I think that was what was so special about that experience, is what we'll remember, as well as the people that were there. And the picture on the right is Maddie doing the boat work as usual. I think I'm probably socializing in the background and getting the boat ready for racing.
Yeah, we were a little bit lucky with location of our container, because all containers were located next to the boat park, and it was a lot of energy inside, like a lot of egos, a lot of negative energies and a lot of positive energies, and we were like a countryside. We had 6 containers which were located across the road from Olympic parking, and our was absolutely in the corner, and you can see the atmosphere next to the container, everything relaxed and focused on things, and really good place. We were very lucky. Thank you.
Yeah, this image was taken up in the main village in Tokyo. Will and I were really fortunate that we could stay a few extra days for the closing ceremony. So we had a bit of a tour around the main village. We played tourists for a couple of days, and to have a look at the other athletes and just to speak to them and to get a bit of Olympic spirit was really cool. This was in the Samsung lounge, trying to get as much freebie stuff as we could, I think, whatever was left before everyone packed up. Yeah, this is probably one of the highlights actually. To be able to spend a bit of time with the Boomers, to sort of celebrate with them after their bronze medal match, and to actually have quite a few conversations with Paddy Mills, who was the flag bearer for the opening ceremony, and we sort of sweet talked Ian Chesterman, who was the Australian team chef de mission, to allow Will and I to actually get on to that court and watch it live, which was really, really cool. As you can see in the background of that image, when they were getting their bronze medal, there's almost no one in the up on the court stands. So to be able to do that was actually the first time I've really ever watched anyone else compete at an Olympics. So that was really special. And such a historic moment for Australian basketball. Just to watch that live was really special. Yeah, this was we had a bit of a we obviously couldn't do the opening ceremony with COVID protocols, but we do have a bit of a tradition that we like to dress up in our opening ceremony uniform. It was just sort of Will and I. We brought the full uniform over from Australia just for the opening, and it was nice. We were able to sort of celebrate as if we were there in person, and we watched it on TV with the rest of the Australian sailing Olympic team, which was really cool. This is definitely Will's favourite moment. After the games, being able to eat whatever he wants. As you can see in the background, I think it can probably house about 5,000 people. You can see just on the edge of the image, we had screens, so you wouldn't be able to minimize the contact, and particularly with COVID and separation. But you could basically have whatever you wanted 24/7, which was really cool. It is the same food though, 24/7. But it was just an amazing experience. The food courts, 2 levels, so many people, and as you can imagine, you walk around there just seeing all the different athletes from all over the world. It's always a highlight of the games. This image was taken in 2019 during one of the training just before the 470 World Championships were there in the end of July of Mount Fuji, which was pretty cool. It's pretty rare to actually see Mount Fuji whilst we were there. I think we only saw probably about 4 or 5 times. We did see during the Olympic trip, which was really special. It's just a really sort of iconic shot of us training and the background, and very distinct of Tokyo waters. Yeah, this was the last day. I think we're just about to head out on the plane. Just to get the Olympic rings. In the background, you can see the accommodation in the main village up in Tokyo. You can see just on the top right hand side, that was the Australian village. So we had the whole hotel there, and just to get a photo. It was pretty hard to actually get this photo. We had to go around the other side. You can see the sort of the bum of another guy above my head. Everyone wanted to get this photo. That was the best that we could do. But we've got Mark Thorpe, as Will said before, was our boat builder support. We've got Sam Ellis, Tristan Brown, the laser radial coach, and Sam was our technical advisor, and Will and I were able to stay in the main village for a couple of days after we finished before flying back. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think the timing of trying to use the ice bath, one ice bath at the main village on the right hand side, it was probably a bit of a regular occurrence. After each day we would do his ice bath. On the left hand side, you can see we're doing our washing to try and come back, because we knew when we were going back into hotel quarantine that we wouldn't be able to have access to a washing machine. So we right outside our Olympic containers, we're doing our laundry, which was kind of a surprise to the Japanese officials as to what we were doing. But it did actually dry in about 20 minutes because of the heat, which was very, very useful. Yeah, this is the moment we crossed the finish line of the medal race. Just that relief and that excitement that we got around the medal race without breaking anything. Although Will's effort of trying to pump the rig during the medal race, which you would have seen, gave it a good crack. But yeah, just so happy that really coming back to that image that we saw standing second in Rio, and just to know that we were able to achieve our dream, which was really, really cool. These are a part of the celebration as we had finished. The two images that really the three images that really stand out. You can see that it's just such a big family sort of environment, particularly in the 470, and that top right image, really stay with us for a long time. We'd just been awarded the medals, and to celebrate together that we know that the 470 men's class will no longer exist, and the women going mixed. To be able to share that moment and to hug each other and embrace was really cool. The bottom left image, Will and Jamie, how cool is that? The second games together, and to be able to support each other as brother and sister and to follow that Olympic path is phenomenal. Victor and Ian, absolutely massive part of it, and it's just all those weeks, months, years of training together to put it all together when it counted, just within that 1 week of the 5 years training, but the 4 years preparation before that. There's a lot of emotions, and the whole team was with us.
So that's the photographic presentation from the guys, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, everybody, that they were a lot of fun and really helped bring the Olympic experience into our lounge rooms. I've got a couple of questions. I can see a few coming in now, but I'll start with a couple. My first one's to Will. So, Will, I've got to congratulate you on achieving your goal of coming top 100 in the Moth Worlds. I thought that was a pretty lofty goal, and quite frankly, you did amazingly well just to get around the course every day. But top 100, I think you got well inside that. But after trapezing all your life, I believe you found it a little bit difficult to hike on a dinghy. Was that something you really struggled with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was shocked to get into the top 100 after that first day of hiking. I thought I was an athlete before I went there, but I've never been so sore as trying to do that hiking thing 5 days in a row. So by the second last day, I could barely sit on the side. But it gives me a greater awareness of what Matt's been doing all these years. So he can keep hiking. I'm happy to trapeze. That's fine with me.
Well, all joking aside, congratulations on even just doing it. I mean, that was fantastic, particularly straight after the Olympics. I know you guys had breakfast with Matt Wern every day, and he finished his event well before you guys. What was it like sitting down with him, having him won his gold medal already, and you're still in the heat of your competition? Did the vibe change? Did he keep himself contained? What was breakfast like with Matt?
Yeah, no, breakfast was great with Matt. I think he'd heard the story, which I told a few times internally within the Australian sailing team, when I was rooming with Tom Burton and Jason back in Rio, where Tom had finished a couple of days before, and we sort of have our house rules, and he wanted to make sure that the medal wouldn't be too distracting for the rest of us, Jason and myself competing. So he put the medal away and he had breakfast the same time. We sort of had the same conversation, and Matty really took that on, and having finished a good I think 3 days it was in the end before the majority of the team, particularly us, that we were the last one. It was really great. He just sort of acted like nothing happened, but it was obviously he'd won. We knew that, but he was really trying to sort of downplay that a little bit, and it just showed the strength of the team. It showed the respect, and it was really cool.
Being able to contain his emotions like that, that's a great achievement in itself. So we're going to go to the questions. They're really flying in now, and the first one actually relates to emotions, and it relates to Victor. Jeffrey has asked the question, and it's really a question of Matt and Will. Is Victor ever hard on you? He looks so relaxed and smiling all the time. So I guess the question is he always this friendly, happy-go-lucky, or does he lose it at times? We'd love to hear about what Victor's really like, and then we might give Victor the right of reply.
I don't know who wants to start. Victor's he's over the last 20 years is been my father. He's been my mentor. He's been my friend. He's been my coach. Certainly, as the later part of our campaign to get those extra 1%ers, we have to be tough on each other. But it's out of really trying to get the best. We have a really strong working relationship, but we also have to be able to challenge each other to get that best performance out of us. And we have so much deep respect. It's always calm, and it's always in the right direction. But yeah, certainly he's pretty tough.
So Victor, are you as friendly and calm as you always appear? You always got a smile on your face.
Yes, smile after competition. In competition, it's much more easier. Like our Olympic Games, our Olympic Games were very simple competition to all of us, except of Matthew and William. They were working very hard physically, but I would say our preparation before the games was the most toughest part of our campaign, much more tough than competition, because what we said when we decided in 2017 to do one more Olympic campaign, decision was made on the only one goal, to obtain gold medal. And that's why all of these 5 years we were pushing each other enormously. And I'm sure boys, they had a tough time during these 5 years, but for me it was also very tough time, because they are very strong personalities and became stronger and stronger, because my job is to make them stronger. And when they became stronger also on me. But what we are saying, if your pets are tigers, you have to be ready to be stretched. Yeah.
Good,
so, and that's the point.
Yeah.
The competition, that's why competition was so easy. Yeah. Like, it's even nothing to say to you about competition, because we were working for 5 years to make it as simple as possible. Nothing happened with equipment, nothing happened with athletes, nothing happened with everything was absolutely under control, due to Matthew and thanks to Will. Everything was, because they were changing ropes, not where they are teared off a little bit. No, as soon as they changed the color, became a little bit bluer, change the ropes. That was the rule. And this rule was working in all areas of our preparation. We were working in advance, making every step only in advance. Sent to Will, that was his rule. And all steps in advance, and it's definitely make our preparation tough, but competition was so easy.
Thanks, Victor. Question from Sarah. How did you find out you were chosen to be the closing ceremony flag bearer, Matt? How'd you find out? And how was the experience of doing that?
I found out through Ian Chesterman. He called me the next morning. Unfortunately, I missed quite a few of the calls because we were packing our container. And it was from an Australian number, and I don't normally answer during Olympic competition, and I didn't realize it was him. But yeah, he told me a couple of hours later, which was really, really special. And to have the honor to represent the Australian Olympic team. It was just an amazing experience. It was super special, and for Will to be there, and to be able to stay an extra couple of days with all the restrictions and the protocols from the IOC in Tokyo 2020 was definitely the highlight for us.
Fantastic. So the next one I'm going to add is from I'm picking it as a young person because his name's Finn, and old people are not called Finn. So young Finn Belcher. Hi guys, and congratulations on your result. How do you deal with on-the-water pressure? That rush of adrenaline you get before a start can impact decision making, and I know for sure I've made some stupid mistakes under pressure. What's your response to that? Will, you have a go.
I'm just a passenger, Al. I've got the easy job, so I thought it'd be a good question for the skipper. But I think practice is what helps make it a little bit easier. Trying to simulate some of those experiences through time, and it's certainly something that Victor brings a lot of experience to be in the right mindset and to practice each training session as though it's the real deal, so that when you get there, it's not too special, and that you feel comfortable. We were lucky to go to Japan. We'd seen those people on the race start line before, and I just left it to Maddie. It was pretty easy after that.
Yeah. I've got a question here from Chris Dance, which is a very current one. My friend Chris, was there any fear of getting a positive COVID test before the medal race? That must have been weighing on your minds.
Yeah, it was, particularly at the end of the competition. As the restrictions and people's approach generally eased a little bit, it was still very, very tight and very restrictive, but it always plays on your mind, particularly when you were in the position we just needed to get around the course. We just didn't want anything to go wrong, and that was certainly, we were doing everything we can to make sure, minimize our contact.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
Question for Victor from Jeff Loosemore of Middle Harbour Amateur Sailing Club. What is the ideal number of boats for doing upwind speed and height training? What is the ideal number of boats to be training with?
I would say maximum 4, and I would say optimal could be 3, because if we have 2 watches, we don't know which one is show us the exact time. But when we have 3, it's more obvious, yeah. And if we have 4 boats, one boat always could be surprised in different conditions, because all of these 4 boats would have their own specialities. One is good in strong wind, one is good in light wind, one is good in upwind, downwind, and if we have 4 boats, we have much more varieties, speed varieties. But I would say optimized is 3.
Okay.
And 4 is just a bonus.
Thank you. For Will, the next one's from Rebecca about what kind of physical training you do as a crew. I've directed this one to you because I've seen you really suffering from what looked to me like oversailing, overtraining, struggling with injuries. I've seen you doing it tough at times. So give us a bit of perspective on your physical training.
Yeah, I think the sailing classes have evolved over the years, that now there's a lot of pressure to be really professional and trying to be an athlete. And I guess for me, I take a lot of my motivation from the other sports people that I look at, whether it's the Tour de France cyclists or the athletic runners. You've got to be a full package and ready to compete for what seems like a marathon. It's a full week of racing at the World Championships and at the Olympic Games, and a lot of extra pressure. So for me, my fitness was basically anything that could push my endurance. And I love cardio sports. For the 470, I also have to keep my weight down quite a lot. So it means I'm more biased towards cardio, longer runs and bike rides and swimming, things like that. And I use other competitions such as triathlons or fun run events to keep that motivation and to kind of cross train a bit more broadly, I guess, to be ready for the sailing. And then obviously the sailing itself is the best training you can do.
Yeah, great. And this one's obviously a bit of a Dorothy Dixer from a mate of yours, Will. It's from Tex. Is it true a green cookie is a tradition since a little boy? What's the story behind that one?
Yeah, it's a small world, so I can probably guess who this came from. But as a little boy, well before I learned how to sail, our neighbor Nola, she used to cook, or I used to apparently help cook green cookies, and it was always a favorite as a kid. So certainly some secret success in that, and yeah, hopefully there's a few more left over for the years to come.
Good. The next one's from Chris Simons from Wynyard Yacht Club in Tasmania, who's a parasailer and X470 sailor himself. And this is I think this is a really good question because it relates to the different preparation that Australia had compared to the people that were able to sail against other boats. His question is, well, congratulations to you. Can you explain your training by yourself in the lead up? Many say you need a team and boats to compete against, but you kind of disproved that. You went out there and dominated without the benefit of that. Well, perhaps Matt, you could have a go at that first.
Yeah, it was a new world for us, to be honest. We predominantly just based our program over in Europe, and we went from summer to summer. So we anywhere in a year we would do sort of 9 to 10 competitions. We thought we would struggle quite a lot with domestic-based training, particularly that volume. And I think what made it a little bit easier is that we didn't actually know it would be 18 months. It was kind of like you would do 4 months and then you have a little bit of hope and then maybe you could travel and then another 3 or 4 months. So it sort of dragged it out a little bit, which probably helped a lot psychologically. But we just had a very detailed plan. You know, we were absolutely very structured in the skills that we needed to develop through our experience. And I think a little bit lucky, to be honest, to be able to get through those periods and to keep enough volume of training with COVID. And I think it's not just a matter of domestic-based training, but it was also the health restrictions within Australia, which added a large complexity to our preparation. But yeah, it works this time. I'm not saying it might work again, but with all the experience that we have with the team and the support that we had domestically, we were able to make it work.
Thanks. A question from Greg Hines. I'm assuming this is a serious question. It does play a role for a lot of people. What pump up music do you listen to? Now, I'm assuming Matt would probably be in excess from that era. Victor might be more classical, but is there any particular music that gets you going?
Nah, not really. Just whatever's the latest. I try and upgrade a bit to make me feel a bit younger.
Victor, you've got fine tastes.
My favorite is Dirty Dirty. This is very, very special rhythmic music, which is very good for everything. Very good for pumping for Will, and very good also for how we can say, and very good for exercises, very good for running, very good for everything. But it's a little bit strange music. I'm sure Will, he knows Dirty Dirty, yeah? It's only Will knows.
I've definitely heard Victor's morning workout songs, but I must comment that in Japan, every morning breakfast was classical, Mozart, Beethoven, and a few others. And now, when you hear it, it definitely brings back good memories of breakfast in Japan.
Oh, that's great. So the next question is from Brian. He'd like to know, when competing at a level as high as the Olympics, how do you look for opportunities to gain distance on the fleet? What's more important, gaining tactically or just raw boat speed? And I know the answer is both, but perhaps you could comment on boat speed versus tactics. I guess a fast boat makes your tactics look good.
Yeah, exactly, Alistair. I think speed, anyone would want to have greater speed. It makes you look like a genius at times. I can certainly get you out of some really difficult positions, but I think at the level, particularly with 470s and at Olympics, that the difference between teams is so small. At any given moment, though, particularly in 470, that they can win the regatta, certainly win multiple races. So we were just focusing on the small 1%ers, just be a little bit faster at the start, be a little bit closer to the line, a little bit better position, just a little bit better speed. A little bit better communication, position our boat a little bit more in advance than the others, and try and make less mistakes. And it sounds pretty easy, but we really just focus on simplify it in a very sort of complex environment, and we just did that a little bit better for that week.
Okay, I'm going to roll a few questions into one here. So I've got Natalie Farrell here, Kaylin, and Miles Barron Hay, who have all asked really about your future. I'll ask each of you to comment on it. They'd all like to know the gold medal was a fantastic inclusion in the men's Olympic 470 class. Obviously, that's not available to you anymore. Where does each of you go from here, to the degree that you know? And Kaylin's asked, when did you decide that you wanted to be an Olympian? So perhaps you could, each one of the three of you could say a little bit about your future and what made you want to be an Olympian. Perhaps Victor first.
This is the most difficult question, probably. Yes.
You may not know.
Very difficult question, because all of us, we decided to finish after this Olympic gold medal, and but it's very difficult to say. For example, for Matthew and for William, they are very young. They can do whatever they want, and they will be successful in whatever they want, because what we will learn from this tough time, especially from our last campaign, because our last campaign was the best university, the best academy of life. Yes, we learn how to reach our goals, and we have learned how to make things happen. And that is their biggest strength in this life now. Whatever they will decide now, for Matthew to be Prime Minister of Australia, or for William to be America's Cup winner, or to be, William was only one Ironman in 470 fleet. And everything is possible for them. But for me, it's difficult because all my life, all things around me, in my flat, in my bags, in my garage, are collected or assembled to make people winners, to make me working hard in this field, and what I have to do now. If I will stop coaching, it's finished. I will die in 2 years. But if I will do coaching at any level, I will be very happy. I will be happy to coach Optimist team. I will be happy to coach 420 team. I will be happy to coach any class, America's Cup or whatever federation will decide, I will do, because coaching is my mission, and I can stop my work for medals, but I cannot stop my mission, definitely.
Thanks, Victor. There's an opening in the Tazar class that I'm aware of for a coach. I might be. I'll come and chat.
Open, absolutely open, because coaching, this is fantastic, and this is not about money anymore. This is all about to help people.
That's good, Victor, because we don't have any. Now, Matt, Victor mentioned you for Prime Minister. With the current crop that we've got, I'd certainly vote for you. But perhaps you could respond to the question about where you go from here. And I know that it is difficult because not all the decisions have been made, and but people would love to hear why you wanted to become an Olympian and what perhaps your future might hold.
Yeah, I think it's just quickly, it's really special. You can see that the relationship that we have with the three of us, and even though we're finished, Victor still provides that guidance and that support and that passion. And I think for 20 years, when I first really decided I really wanted to be Olympian at the Sydney Olympics, to have someone so special and so passionate like Victor to support you, you realize how amazing our world is. It's certainly not the last time our group will be together, and I'm sure Will and I will be on another boat. I can definitely say that we love sailing together. I love sailing with Will and that detail and just all those experiences and those collective moments. So we're definitely doing some other sailing. I'd like to do the Hobart this year if I can, and I'd like to do a little bit of offshore racing just to have a bit more of an all round. And whenever anyone asks you in the street, if you've done a Hobart and you say no, they sort of get quite disappointed. It doesn't matter what you've done outside of that. So I'd like to be able to say, yes, I've done a Hobart like Will. And so, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I've been back only 3 weeks, with 2 weeks hotel quarantine, a lot of time away this year, and just really enjoy being home with the kids. And in the next few months, we'll make some decisions about Olympic. And but at the moment, just enjoying being at home and enjoying being with family.
Good answer. Yeah, I've never done a Hobart either, Matt. And people cannot believe it when I tell them that, because it's such an Australian thing to do. Will, what's your? Are you aiming to win a Moth Worlds at some stage? You've got a bit of an improvement to make.
I think I learnt in the Moth Worlds that you got to spend some money if you want to win. So that might be my future life once I have a real job. But maybe I'll start with the other end of the question, which is why I got into the Olympics. For me, I got into sailing for an enjoyment. It's something my grandfather got me into, and I love the sport. But the Olympic dream was never something for me early on. I remember seeing my very first Olympic medal, which was Tom King's in 2000 in a state performance squad camp. He came to visit, and I thought it was really cool, but it certainly didn't ignite any dream for me then. It took some time. And it was meeting Victor in Middle Harbour Yacht Club, and I guess you can see his passion, and he sells the dream pretty well. And I think that's what got me inspired to get involved with that. It was also a good chance to go to Europe and skip my university exams for that semester. But what's really cool about the Olympic project, and what I'm looking for in something going forwards, is that kind of ongoing pursuits of a passion project. You've got some time to make the gains, to kind of reflect on it, to look for those improvements, and to continue forward. So I think we're all like-minded in that respect, a little bit perfectionist inside of us, but also kind of driving for more. So whatever the future ends up bringing, it'll be something that's like that. It's not just a one-day kind of hit out, but it'll be something to build towards. I don't know what it might be, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Great. So I do apologise to everybody out there that's asking questions that we don't get to, because there's so many of them, but we've only got 10 minutes left, and I'm just trying to choose a few here. Pete has asked, watching the tracker, your starts were extraordinarily consistent in approach and middle to middle right positioning. What are the most important factors to executing a good start? And had you generally decided that's the area of the line you wanted to be at, Matt?
Yeah, it's a bit of a habit of ours, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I've seen some of our competitors actually on this chat. We typically just favoured that sort of just underneath the boat end pack. It was sort of suited our style of racing to be able to start. We knew that the density would be a little bit less. We still had pretty good line judgment as well. We did some analysis during the games, and we were able to be closer than any other team, but also at full speed. And I think just being away from that main group enabled us to start strong and gave ourselves plenty of options as the race opened up in picking the strategy or having to adjust strategy. But that was one of the things we had to work on a lot by ourselves. It was something that we could simulate by ourselves. If you ask any of our competitors, we're not strong starters. We were absolutely terrible at the end. But we had really good judgment and really good acceleration, and that helped us a lot, particularly in a smaller boat fleet like the Olympics, as opposed to a Worlds where we've got double, almost 2.5 times the amount of boats. Yeah,
I'm sure your competitors actually would have one goal with their starting, and that's to not be next to you on either side, because I think you're being very modest about your starts. For you, Will, this is from Ian Taylor. I'm guessing it's string. What sail training electronics do you use? Example, Sailmon, which you'd no doubt be aware of. Or have you done so much of it now that you know when you're on the pace or not by pure feel? Like even in your training, how much assistance do you get from electronic gadgetry?
Yes, so within our racing, the only electronics we can use is a countdown watch for the start, always Ronson, of course, and we can use an electronic compass to kind of gauge a wind shift left or right. So that's the extent of our onboard electronics. But certainly in the training, you look for different ways to be creative to build that kind of feeling. Sometimes we use Victor and the coach boat as our reference we'd use the other boats to train against or other fin boats, but we did use the Salmon. The Vaqueros is another good one, and there's also Garmin watches that display speeds similar to what you have on big boats. So we tried to bring some of that technology across to utilize, but at the end of the day, it does come down to that feel. And then on board the boat, we can kind of break down that communication between Matt and myself to give the feedback to each other. Do we think we're too fast or too slow? And I guess upwind, that was often in my kind of hands to help control that a little bit. And then downwind, Matt was in a better spot, being more static in the boat to be able to contribute that and to see the other boats around as a reference. So.
Got one for Victor here. This is from Zoe Dransfield, who I'm guessing is John's daughter. Well done, guys, and thanks for sharing your photos. For Victor, how do you think the 470 boat setup will change with a male-female pairing?
I would say not a lot, because we had now we had 2 classes, for 70 men and for 70 women. What was the difference? Very, very tiny. But now we have mixed class. Would be even less difference between men and less difference between women. It will be like exactly what we have for 70 standards. Absolutely the same. I would not say we would use softer mass or stiffer centerboards or different board or different sails. No, it would be the same winning combination what we had before. Absolutely the same.
Okay. Question from Pete. Pete's asked, what were the most important lessons from Rio? And I guess I'd like to perhaps add to that and say, what was your biggest takeaway from it? What did it do for you the most? What was the greatest about your Rio experience, and what did you learn? Matt?
We learned a lot through that program. We tried to structure the program to be a little bit more domestic based, not as much as what we did over the last 18 months. But we just found it was really hard to be able to have time to work on the skills or those 1%ers that we knew that we were capable of. We had sort of traveled the world a lot to the point that we were platinum on almost 4 or 5 different airlines, and just that fatigue and that sort of being on tour for such a long time and a large amount of time. And I think that we really structured good partnerships with Japan for this cycle. We did that very early we're just very, very detailed in what we knew we wanted to do, and to have a more balance between life and campaign, and to really give ourselves that opportunity to get into the detail to deliver our best performance. And I think that we really focused on ourselves this last campaign, and we were really only concerned about getting our best performance. Whereas I think for Rio, there was a lot of distractions. It was very, very hard because we were on tour so much. We couldn't hide as much as what we ultimately could do in the last 18 months. So yeah, there's a lot of lessons, but obviously we learned well enough, and was able to sort of regroup, and that's, I guess, what we're most proud of. Yes, the gold medal, but the actual performance we were able to deliver at the moment in the time that we needed to. Whether that would have been gold, silver, or bronze, if we had that feeling that we knew we were doing the best that we could, that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Will?
Yeah, I think Matt summarised it pretty well. I know prior to this Olympics, most of what we talked about from the Rio one was when I fell in the water in that last race, and that was something that kind of just showed the strength in the team that we had between Matt, Victor, and myself. There's no kind of like reflection on making the mistake. It was like, okay, how do we get on and make the best of the next one? And that was exactly as Matt said. It was about the delivering the best performance we could in Tokyo, and that was probably why it was so enjoyable. Like, yes, we were isolated, but it just meant that we were only talking to each other and just reminding each other why we were there to sail as well as we could and to enjoy it for team. And that last race, I think, summarizes it best. It was the last men's 470 Olympic race that we could compete in, and we weren't going to let that opportunity slip away. It was cool.
And perhaps a closing comment from you, Victor. Are you still learning?
Absolutely. And every day is learning day. Even now, Like, I'm not coaching, but I'm learning a lot about what we've done before, what was the key factors for us to win, and where I was good and where I was not very good, and what I have to do to be better. That's what I'm thinking every day. And this is the same. As soon as you stop to do this, as soon as you stop learning, finish. Your life is done. As soon as you are still learning, you are moving forward. That's the rule.
Good on you. And Tony Attridge has asked Matt Belcher, how do you balance Rika and the kids against Victor and Will? You got some pretty strong relationships. How do they compete in your life? How do you find enough time for both?
I don't know who's stronger, Will or Victor or Ricky. I think it's not possible unless you have such a large amount of support and trust between, I guess both sides in any situation. And, I can't thank Will and Victor enough to have that flexibility. And if that meant that, Will and Victor put their hands up and Ian as well to drive that extra 4 or 5 hours and to come a little bit closer, or to structure the training to really match some of the key moments with the kids that they knew that I even if I weren't there, I probably weren't going to be at training because my mind would be somewhere else. And it just wasn't possible to be able to do that. And for Riki to balance the three kids, and for her to put her life on hold, it's a real family effort. And Riki and I, for 12 years, we toured the world. We started for 70 together, and to go to the games together. She knew exactly what it was about, and she knew how important it was for me, for the family. And they were so happy. And it's great that the kids are a bit older to realize that as to why I'm away, and to get that appreciation of how special campaigning and how special it is to represent your country. And it's been so great to see how proud they are, and to see how motivated they are to get into sport, which is great.
Well, that's a great note to finish on. Look, I really hate to do this because we could talk easily for another hour, and there's so many questions that I feel guilty for leaving, and I do apologise to everybody out there that didn't get their question asked, so I do apologise. But I'd like to just thank the guys. This is the third similar session that I've had with the three of you since you've come back, and I know I've only been at some of them. So the way you've put in back into the sport after returning from Tokyo, and actually from all the games and events you've been to before, is phenomenal. I mean, the sport is stronger because of the attitudes of people like you and how you put back. And I know you're working very, very hard behind the scenes to help Australian sailing and to help young people and to foster the development of our sport. And I think you're just sensational. So thanks for tuning in, everybody out there. A huge thank you to Matt Belcher, Victor Kovalenko, and Will Ryan. It's been fantastic to hear about your experiences, and I think we had a bit of humour and a few good stories, and we made it a bit of fun. But it's really good to see your photos and to hear your perspectives on things. As I said earlier, there are still a few webinars to come. So there are still a few opportunities for the sailing community to connect with our Olympians. And as I said earlier, we have Matt Wern next Tuesday. Look out for the details on Australian Sailing's social media. On that note, I've got a meeting to go to. I'm off. Thanks, guys, so much for your involvement. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Good night to everybody, and go Australian Sailing. Bye.
Thanks, guys.